If this had been Hollywood, he would have made it. But this was not Hollywood. This was North Georgia in 1990, and he did not make it. In this fabulous modern age we live in, everybody from age 5 to 75 has got a camera phone on the ready to record every amazing thing that happened. Our streets and our walls and our ceilings are covered in security cameras. Our race cars and helmets have dash cams and GoPros. We have Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and these great venues that inspire people to share. And for fans of the automobile, for motorheads, gearheads, that's been wonderful for us. We've gotten to see nearly every amazing thing that's happened on four wheels or two in the last 30 years. What I think about, though, are all the times in that 75 or 80 years before there was a camera everywhere, all the amazing things that happened before there was anybody there to take a picture. You hear people say, oh, no photo, it didn't happen. Well, a lot of stuff happened before cameras. A lot of my stories happened before cameras. And the only way anybody ever knew about it, if there was somebody there to tell the story. Before he died, Burt Reynolds said, in the end, all you got are your stories. And this is one of those stories. It was something that happened. I saw it. It was absolutely amazing, and nobody will probably believe it, but I'm going to tell you anyway. As many great stories do, it happened in high school. I am out with a bunch of friends of mine. We, lived in this little country town. We didn't have a mall or a theater or a club. We just had back roads and lakes. And there was this one lake way up into the mountains that we'd all go hang out and swim and do whatever. And this was a weekend afternoon in the summertime. I think it might even been Earth Day or something like that. And we're all just out floating around on inner tubes and having a good time. And it's afternoon. Somebody's playing the music. We're just having a good time. It's like, any teenage movie. There was a guy that I went to school with. Now, I was still in high school. He'd already graduated. He was a couple years older than us. And his name was Billy. And Billy's dad owned a junkyard. And, in a little country town, most of us drove farm trucks or some old American car. It might be some little economy car from Japan or somewhere. But, nobody had anything from Europe. Nobody had a true, foreign classic car. I didn't see very interesting cars like that a lot, except Billy. And Billy's dad, I guess we call him a flipper nowadays, but back then we called him a horse trader. He was just a guy that was always trading something for something interesting, and he'd fix it up, probably do a motor swap, whatever. And so Billy and his brother both just always had some really interesting car that you just didn't see very often. And this particular day, Billy is in an old, very late 50s, early 60s Triumph TR3. They're beautiful little cars. They got these really neat little cutouts. The door cuts down. You can sit way back, a long hood, classic British sports car. The car, however, did not fit Billy. Billy was one of these salt of the earth kind of guys. He kind of looked like Hank Williams Jr., with the glasses, with the kind of amber fade tint. He was just a deer hunting country guy. And for him to be in this little British sports car, not only did he not fit this car culturally, he also did not fit this car physically. Billy was a big guy, not just in his height, but in his circumference. The little door cutouts, that car, the doors kind of come down really low. And when he drove that car, he literally kind of had to hang out of the side of that car. His head sort of stuck up over the windshield. He looked like a Mario Kart character in a way. And I don't call out Billy's size to put him down in any way. It's actually going to save his life in about 2 minutes into this story. So it's afternoon. We're all hanging out, having a good time. And Billy, being a simple man, he was kind of a man of few words. He just gets up at one point and says, "I'm going home." And he gets in his car, and as all country boys do, he slung some gravel and kicked it out and went peeling off up the road. Now, the road up to this lake was a really precarious road. It was just a steep kind of mountain canyon. They just sort of carved the road out of it. It was, just rocks on this side, drop off on this side. And if you're going up or down it, the forward perspective, it almost looked like a roller coaster. It was just a series of hills, and you could just see all the crest of these hills. And if you were out there with your friends having a good time, you'd get a good head of speed up, go fast, and you kind of get that little bit of weightlessness going over, kind of roller coaster. Except in two different spots, as you crested the hill, erosion, tectonic plates, whatever, The road just made a very sharp 90-degree turn, went in about 100 yards, made a hairpin turn, came back out to the face of this canyon, and then continued on. And if you knew the road well, you knew where those places were, or you were counting or whatever. But needless to say, Billy was a great driver, but maybe math was not his strong point. All we knew is that we're still splashed around at the lake, and we look up the road and we see a figure on foot walking back. Billy struck a very distinctive profile. We knew it was Billy. And he comes back, and of course we ask, what happened? He said, my car ran off the road. I need a rope. And, a bunch of eager high school kids. We all had trucks with chains and tractor parts, whatnot in it. There was a Georgia Power plant near us, and a lot of the kids whose dads worked there always had these big, we just called it a Georgia Power rope. Just this big old yellow 100-foot, whatever, big strong rope. Somebody always had one. Go get a Georgia Power rope. Well, somebody had a Georgia Power rope. A bunch of us hopped in the back of a couple of trucks, and again, we're like the kids in Red Dawn. We're just these little country kids. We all pile in the back of a truck. We go tearing off up the hill. And I knew Billy. I wasn't really tight with him. I'm just one of the younger kids that got lucky to get in the back of the truck. Even some of the older guys are in the front. They're really running the show. We're just kind of along for the ride because we want to see. So we get up on the road, and we don't see Billy's car anywhere. And we get to the first of those little cut-ins, and Billy's like, it's down there. And to set the scene, we are on this gravel road. We've got a 6 or 7 story drop off to the right. We've got a really steep cut up to the left. Road's about 2 lanes wide, and the road just makes a sharp 90-degree turn back around this cliff. As I described, the road was this kind of series of roller coaster hills. The main road does line up on the other side, and the road we're sitting on is probably 10 feet higher than where the road continues on the other side. The gap is maybe 60, 80 feet probably. It's about 8 or 9 stories down. Through our little forensic minds, we're, looking at all the skid marks and whatnot. Billy and his friends are getting the ropes out and all that. What we could devise was that, Billy was flying down this road, topped this hill, realized he'd come up to one of the cuts where the road did not go straight. We could see the skid marks in the gravel where he had apparently put the brakes on for a second, but realized he wasn't going to make it. And being a good country boy, what did Billy do? He put it to the floor. If this had been Hollywood, he would have made it. But this was not Hollywood. This was North Georgia in 1990, and he did not make it. But this is where the story becomes truly miraculous. Billy hits the gas. As his car left the road, the significant mass of Billy sitting in this very, very lightweight car. And now Triumph TR3, you practically sit between the back wheels. The engine's practically in the middle of the car. And of course, Billy being in the very back, this car is very tail heavy. He had his foot on the gas. He had some acceleration, which kind of creates a little bit of lift. What happened was, as he went off of that cliff, trying to make it, as he left the ground, his weight caused that car to go tail down, and he landed wheels down on the opposite cliff face. Now, in the South, we have this brush. Plants are called sumac, just these itchy, woody kind of vines. They grow on cliff sides and sides of the road. And there was a good 6 or 8 feet of this brush, growing on this cliff face over here. So when Billy left the road, he just tilted just right and just landed, and that 7 or 8 feet of brush just sort of cushioned the car, and he stuck it on the wall about 10 feet shy. Now, he was probably going 40 miles an hour. This had to have been a pretty violent hit, and the car was relatively okay. I mean, it was scratched up. I'm sure some things were bent underneath, but he made the gap, stuck it on the wall, climbed up, and just walked back to the lake. And being a man of few words, my car ran off the road. So they threw down a Georgia Power rope, hooked it to a truck, pulled him out. The car was apparently drivable. He got in the car, said, thank you, cranked it up, peeled out some gravel, and took off. There were no photos. I don't think any of us even knew anybody that owned a camera back then. But I didn't see it happen, but I saw the aftermath. I saw how he got there. That was the most amazing thing I ever saw that I wish I had a picture of.